As knife makers, we all know the importance of quality handle material. Something that's both tough yet beautiful will increase the value of your knives and allow you to build something that your customers will love. When it comes to the handle material for my knives, I choose Swikowski scales. Run by Sarah Halpane and her mentor Alex Swikowski, they have a combined 20 years experience making handles and knives. They offer stabilized burls, exotic hardwoods, vintage micartas, and some of the best segmented scales in the business. Find them on Instagram at Swikowski Scales or on their website, swikowskiscales.com. That's SWIECZKOWSKI scales.com.
All right. All right. You guys ready?
We're ready, Kyle.
Ready
All
for
right.
you.
3, 2, 1, 0, 0.
You're listening to the Knives Templars.
Get ready, y'all. We about to Bobby Boucher you. Bam!
I got a piece off of the wagon that Sam Houston used to take JFK to the moon.
Pinto sauce. I like that. Pinto sauce.
Pinto sauce.
You're tuned in to the Knives Templars podcast, featuring Otisir Special Sauce Pinto.
I was a mean kid.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Eric T.R.E. Rivers.
Holy crap, I built something.
Don the Train Watson.
I can pay off all my credit cards and beef jerky credit line at Bucket.
Joey the Riot Terrier.
Cochon de lait will make you smack your lips. Is anyone getting too close to your plate?
Mark Vasallo.
You drinking my soupy?
And Chip Shegman Carlisle. And now broadcasting alive, it's the Knives Templars. Coming to you live from Porkhouse Studios located in Hartselle, Alabama and other U.S. locations. This is the Knives Templars podcast. We are the coolest knife-making podcast on the planet, and we are downloaded around this big blue marble in over 24 countries. We are on air, on demand, and heard worldwide in all of your favorite apps and at knivestemplars.com.
Hello, guys, and welcome to the Knives Templar podcast, the second best, almost best podcast on the internet.
Oh, let's go.
How about one of the top two? One of the top two.
One of the top 5 podcasts on the internet. This is Kyle Daly, Cage Daily Knives. Chip is out today. He's not feeling so great. He asked us to pop in, and we're going to give it our best shot. And this is the Knives Templars episode 35, season 4, episode 35, the best podcast made to teach rising established makers like you how to pave your way into the knife making industry as a hobby or a business. Heard in over 30 countries, and thank you for your listenership, making us the best rising podcast for knife makers and knife enthusiasts on the internet. Click subscribe on your podcast provider and leave us some reviews. Thanks, Chip, for writing some of that stuff out. So,
yeah,
Chip always likes to ask, you guys been to knivestemplars.com lately?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a great site.
Yeah. Get your mark on the Knives Templars Nation. Anybody want to hear the menu tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Way to start. Let's see what we got.
All right. We've got the brew review, and I've got a pretty good brew that I got. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about?
I have a brew too tonight, so we can hit that at one point.
Then we got news and useful information. We've got some feedback, and we've got the Pops Baker's Mark, Mr. Big Hand David Moore.
Oh yeah.
Always great talking with that big guy. Got the Knives Templars tip, I believe, with Jason Fry. I believe he's going to just play the audio for that in post-production. We've got a couple of topics for things that I'm especially interested in and have done. We've got the open mic and the week ahead. So nice. Yeah, that's what we got on the list here, guys, and looking forward to chatting with you guys. So for the brew review, I've got this So Revolution Brewery is a group of guys here in Chicago, and they make this Straight Jacket barley wine ale aged in bourbon barrels. So this one is a little bit hotter than the barley wine I had last time I was on the show. This one's 15%. So on the can here, it says our barley wine ale features American and Belgian malts, which provide the base for this extraordinary ale. After 12 months in bourbon barrels, the award-winning Straight Jacket emerges with notes of stone fruit, toasted coconut, molasses, and vanilla, coming in waves as you swirl the glass. Enjoy now or store cold. One of my favorites, always has been. It's not for everybody. It's a little pungent, and barley wine ale is a style of ale before they really knew what beer was. So it's brewed more like a wine than it is most of the beer that we do now, but still super great.
Yeah,
what do you got, Mark?
Look it up. So yeah, nothing is as great as that. But the last couple episodes, I'm a big IPA fan, so I try to seek out IPAs and those. So, but Chip's been talking about some porters and a bunch of different beers. So I was like, well, I wanted to try something different. I like Yingling, and but I saw this on the shelf. I grabbed myself a 6-pack of these Yingling Hershey's.
Okay.
And wasn't sure what I was going to think about it, right? So actually, Hershey's chocolate porter, and so America's oldest brewery with some of America's oldest chocolate, and so wasn't sure what I was going to think about it. And I would tell you, it took 2 beers to it was the first time I didn't think it was the greatest, because you're expecting that you're going to eat a bar of chocolate at the same time as having a great beer. But after I had that, I had a second one another night, and then really once you just appreciate that, hey, it's a good beer with a nice scent aftertaste of just some chocolate in the background, and you're not expecting like some chocolate milk, then you appreciate it, right? So it's again, I like IPAs, but this was something different, and I'd probably rate it at. A great IPA for me is 5 hops. I'd give this one 4 1/4.
Okay.
Oh, good deal.
I forgot to give my hop rating.
Yeah, you got to hop it.
This one is at least an 8. It's one of my favorite beers ever. Like I said, it's not exactly for everyone, but that bourbon flavor and everything. I recently learned that I really like old fashions last week. And got a few of those, and yeah, I like almost anything bourbon. What do you got, Don?
Is that one of them beers with like 15% alcohol?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
One and done, huh?
15.0.
Ooh.
Yep. You nailed it.
Ooh.
Yeah, almost as much as Cow, right? Is that what you're drinking tonight, Don?
Oh yeah, I'm drinking a little Cow Creole brew right here. Yeah. Oh yeah.
15% chocolate. I mean, well,
yeah, pure chocolate.
But, I still have mine, and
you like that?
probably
Are you liking it?
Yeah, once a week. I'll have a cup. I like it in the evening, and it's kind of it's not hot chocolate and it's not coffee, right? But it just kind of gives you that coffee, chocolate flavor that you can just sip on. So I like it.
Smooth, real smooth.
Yeah. What do you got, Eric? Do you doing a Pepsi or
Sprite?
No, Bud Light.
Some strawberry lemonade. Strawberry lemonade in a big old jar.
Mason jar.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
And Dave, I think you said you had some sweet tea.
Oh, you go.
I got some unsweet tea.
Unsweet tea.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Isn't that
Alabama?
Isn't that like against the law?
Yeah, that's a New Jersey drink, from
in Texas, that is against the law.
It's keto friendly.
All right. Hey, good on
that. Gotcha. All right. So with that, let's hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Hey listeners, let's take a moment today to thank one of our sponsors for today's show, and that sponsor is Ameribraid Grinders. Eric and Kevin over at Ameribraid have sold thousands of these grinders, and they are super nice guys, and their customer service is excellent. I would know. I've been personally using their 2x72 grinder now for 2 years, and it has changed my knife making to a whole new level. So if you're in the market for or looking to upgrade from that 1x30 or 2x42, then give Ameribraid a look. There you'll find they have 3 packages of grinders to offer. They have a mastery package, a foundations package, and a get grinding package, in which all of them come at different price points. So I'm sure you'll find something that'll suit your needs as a knife maker. Also, Ameribraid has a ton of innovative attachments for their grinders. So listeners, you can find out about all of this at www.ameribraid.com. Go give them a look, see what they have to offer today. And now, back to the show.
And like that, we're back. So news and useful information. It looks like we've got the Louisiana Custom Knife Show, September 9th. Louisiana's premier knife show, consisting of multiple vendors. Chip has a list of them here: Austin Outdoors, Andrew Smith, Texas Knife Steel, Nichols Damascus, HJP Legacy, Red Stick Roofing, Grain Creations, Paragon, I believe that's the heat treat oven company. The Louisiana Custom Knife Association is hosting it, and it says for info on how to be a vendor or a sponsor, go to lacustomknives.net. So definitely check that out.
Joey's not on tonight.
Yeah,
Is Joey going to that one? Is he showing?
Yeah, I think he's going to be there, but tonight he's having difficulty with his internet, and he's been trying to get on and off. So he don't know if he's going to be able to get on tonight or not. So,
well, if he doesn't make it on tonight, and then you're going to be in the area for that knife show, make sure you go and visit his table.
Sure.
Yeah, I got to see some of his work at Blade Show.
Yeah, he does some great work.
Yeah. And then I had a couple of write-ins. One of my friends, Sean Mullenbelt, he's doing the Great Lakes Rendezvous. I always like to say Rendezvous. But that's July 22nd in Michigan.
Right.
I forgot to write down the city, but go to Sean Mullenbelt's Instagram. It's 51 Bravo. And he's going to have a whole bunch of people there, some really high-end makers at that event. They're going to be doing a hammer-in and different stuff. Jay Nielsen, Bill Binky, John Nagel, Josh Patterson, and Ryan Broadbeck are all going to be there.
Nice.
So some good people to learn from there. And the other one I had was the Midwest Knife Makers Guild Hammer-In. That's August 18th and 19th in Mankato, Minnesota. It's at the USA Knife Maker facility, and Nick Rossi is going to be the headliner for that. So any of you forging guys, Nick Rossi's always regarded as one of the best forger guys to learn from, and I believe he got his Master Smith last year. So really good guy to learn from there. So definitely check out those 3 events coming up.
Yeah, they sound like they're being great.
Yeah, I was at the Hammer-In last year, and Steve Schwartzer was the main guy talking about canister Damascus, and I literally sat right next to him all 3 nights that we were there for dinner. And man, that guy has some stories and jokes, and if he's not serious or if he's not joking, something's gone really wrong, because I don't think I heard him not making a joke very often through the whole time. So anybody else have any news or stuff going on with in the knife industry?
No, not for me, man. Everything's going good.
Yeah, we want to talk about some of the stuff going on in our shop. What do you got going on, Eric?
So just working on this YouTube build that I'm messing with right now with the integral hidden tang, getting stuff lined up for that how-to video on marrying up a handle to a integral bolster and getting everything looking good. And that's coming out really good. And I'm getting a lot of information in there for people. And then started my katana build for the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge. Getting that kind of lined out with the steel that I'm going to use, and it's going to
So
be
you
all forged to finish katana.
Oh,
you going for a
nice.
one body or a two body katana there?
One body, and yeah, it's now what would be hilarious is if I made a double bladed katana.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
I thought about doing that just because, you know, I do that. That's
The
just how I roll.
Darth katana.
Yeah, but what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to do a fully forged to finish, to where it is literally you just sharpen it and it's done. Katana. So
Oh, that's
I
nice.
figured push myself and do that because it's going to have the primary bevels, and I'm going to be beveling the spine all the way down it like you would do a traditional katana, but you would grind it. That's all going to be forged, everything.
Oh, nice.
Have you heard of the Edge Professional on Instagram? It's my boy Nick, and I can never pronounce his Canadian last name. He is all in on katanas and stone polishing, all sorts of Japanese knives and swords and stuff.
Yep.
He's working on one that I think is 900 years old or something right now.
Jeez.
He's here in Chicago, and he does a whole bunch on
Ooh.
his kitchen table, which his wife absolutely loves. Definitely check him out. The Edge Professional on
Yeah,
Instagram.
he's got some nice
I will.
stuff.
Yeah, he's a really good sharpener too. That's kind of how he got started, and he goes to there's a samurai sword convention here in Chicago, and he took some video. I think there was one that was like $180,000 or something.
Ooh. There you go.
Absolutely crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Chip would have spit on it.
Oh, he spit on it.
Absolutely.
That's what
I'll
he
tell you,
does.
As he spits.
with this challenge, there's going to be a lot of different katanas. There's one of the guys that I don't know if he's going to make a traditional one or if he's just going to do his thing. But there's a guy named Keaton with Faraway Forge on YouTube, and he made this like cyberpunk katana that lights up and actually has like a full battery system in the handle, and you turn it on and it's got an LED all the way down the blade, and it's ridiculous. And then he's made one out of just scraps from a junkyard that looked insane. Then he's made them to where they're super traditional too. So it's going to be interesting to see what he makes and what Dennis Tyrell makes, because you know he's going to make some crazy super traditional, probably gold inlaid with gold layers.
All right,
Yeah,
Don,
I like to ask, is Ailey Knives going to be in that, Aaron?
So I don't know if he is or if he isn't. You know, he's just been focusing on his family and business. You know, because he's got his own business, does a fiber optic cables, and he travels to Canada and will do a whole entire business and pretty much everything by himself, running all their fiber optics. And he's gone for like a month away from his family. Then he comes back and he's with them for a week and a half to 2 weeks, and then he's gone again. So he's just been focusing on family and business.
Yeah, I miss him because he's always come off the wall with some stuff too, man, in the challenges. He's always done a
great
good
knife
job.
maker and great content creator.
Yes.
For sure. So
What do you got? What are you working on, Brother Don?
I just finished up stabilizing. Now I'm doing some hybrid scales. Had to redo a lawnmower, rebuild my lawnmower because it took a dump on me, but got that done. Finished up some stabilizing of some maple burl, and now I'm starting to add epoxy to the resin, to the burl. So
Yeah. You sent me a couple pictures, and that stuff's looking great.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're
man.
making
Appreciate
some
it.
beautiful stuff there,
Thanks,
Don.
man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, can't wait to see what it looks like on a handle.
Oh yeah, it's gonna look nice. It looks good.
Yeah. All right, what are you working on, Mark?
Well, so I think it's important, right, to not just share the great stuff we're working on, but the stuff that has completely failed in the shop. And so I'm gonna go and put myself out there a little bit on this one, right? And so, I've been working the Joey knife profile that the Knife Templars team's been working on. The first one I cut out did a great. I love the bevels came out perfect. It was like, wow, this was kind of the best job I did on the bevels. And then I had some crazy idea that I was going to do this extra. I have a the false edge on the back, and then I was going to have an opposing false edge going the other direction, and then completely messed it up. And then I chased my mistake until I threw it off to the side of my shop. So I started over again, and I didn't get rid of it. I'm going to make a smaller blade out of it at some point. I'll cut it out. So I started over again, and then this was after I cut the profile out, and then I went to Blade Show and got excited because we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I put a lot of a little bit of work on the spine there, thanks to a great class I took over there that we'll talk about a little bit later in here. But so I got it all done, and went to heat treat it. And so first time I was using pinto sauce, and the pinto sauce went great. But I think I just didn't get up to hot enough. So first time it just didn't harden. So then I tried to do a soak, and I only have a 2-brick forge with my self-made burner. Excuse me. And so I tried to let it soak a little bit longer, and I think I just kept it in place too long without moving. I moved it a little bit, but so I kind of seriously I did a little burning on some of the edge, right? And so now I've been so really I pulled that out. I found the blade I had left is hard. It's just smaller. Bevel ground it all out, and so I've been just doing a lot of makeup work on some of the mistakes I made. And I think the good thing is I learned some good lessons, out of it, and know how I think just as good as knowing what not to do is knowing how to fix something and still make it usable once you make one of those mistakes. So, worked out well. The edge was pretty warped after I got it out, but was able to grind it out and then still foul check pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. I always remember the quote. I believe Jerry Fisk was the first person I ever heard that said, inside every 12-inch buoy is a 3-inch paring knife. So
there you go. Yeah,
you got that going.
Yeah.
So, I know lots of people said knife makers don't make mistakes. They just make smaller knives.
That's right.
That's another good one. So I've been working on a bunch of MagnaCut blades, just finished file working and hardening. Was that 40?
Man, I've seen all of them too, man.
Knives.
All lined up.
So, yeah, I got, I think there's 24 pocket bushcrafters and 14 bushcrafters that are all going to be going to Knife Center, hopefully in a couple months. So, going to be working on those. I just finished heat treating all those. Took almost an entire day to heat treat and temper all those, and going to be starting grinding on those tomorrow. So,
nice.
Yeah.
How much abrasives do you go through doing all the grinding on that many MagnaCut blades?
So I use the incinerator belts for the 36 grit. That's the only one that I've seen that's for the way I grind that has really held up on that. And then I don't know, or for 36 grit specifically. So, and then I switch over to the purple Bora 7 ceramics from Phoenix Abrasives. And I get extraordinary life out of 60 grit and 120 grit on those purple ceramics.
Oh, so I didn't know the purple ceramics come in 60 grit. I only saw them in 120. They come in 60, huh?
Yeah, and 36.
Oh, okay.
So for whatever reason, when I use the 36 grit on there, they seem to die almost instantly. But the purple ceramics work way better than the incinerator belt for the CPM 154 that I use.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of playing around. Your grinding style has a whole bunch of different things to deal with it. So, I'll go through quite a few belts, grinding all those. And then, from Maritime Knife Supply, I get the Norax 936, structured ceramic belts.
Yeah.
And those are the only ones that I found for those higher grits that'll do MagnaCut. Pretty much everything else that I use over 120 grit, MagnaCut just like laughs at it. It like doesn't work. Hand sanding sucks. Everything sucks. But yeah. I'll be going through quite a bit of abrasive on that. And I decided to go all out on so these are the first bushcrafters. So my full size knife, it's a 4-inch blade. The pocket bushcrafters like 3 1/8. So my bushcrafters, I decided to go all out and do the thorn pattern on there. And it's a 1/8 inch thick stock, and having just that little bit thicker, you can get so much more waviness in that thorn pattern that just makes it pop that much more. So those are going to look pretty good.
Oh, nice.
So,
all right.
You mentioned things that are not so bright. Before Blade Show, one of the knives that I was working on for my Knife Makers Guild voting membership was an Akiri that was turning out super great. I was putting the handle on there. I was getting the handle all prepped, and I usually round over the choil, kind of where your finger is on the backside of the blade, with a Scotch-Brite wheel. And it grabbed that, threw it into the grinder stand, and broke a huge chunk out of it. I had spent a lot of extra time making that one be as perfect as I can get it for the Knife Makers Guild knives. So I was pretty heartbroken about that. So it's people don't always realize some of the cost of their knives you're paying for ones that didn't even make it there.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to borrow from your, one of your last podcasts there, Kyle, which I think I listened to in the wrong order. You put two of them out, the pre-Blade Show and the post-Blade Show, and I listened to them backwards. But, I like the discussion about, I think Dan was saying that he has this pile of knives that didn't make the cut. And then, slowly, either as you get a better tool, your skills improve, you take them back out, and then you might be able to rework and bring life into some of those again. And I liked your idea about marking the knife with a burr, with what kind of steel it is, because over time you could start losing track of which knives are what in the recycle pile.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I always try to use a 1/8 inch burr and Dremel, or use my Fordham tool to write the steel on there. For MagnaCut, I usually just put an M. But yeah, like for CPM 154, I write it on there and everything, just in case if I ever pull those back out. Or I've had a couple of people that said, well, I'm like, I'm not going to use it. And they're like, I'll finish it out. I'm like, have at it. There was a bunch of boning knives that I did that I drilled too big of a clearance hole, too close to where your first finger swoop is. So when I did the file work on it, I pushed a little bit harder than I think I should have on the back, maybe, and that whole handle just bent right over. And it was like, well, all these that I drilled are junk. So but somebody else decided they wanted to do it. I don't know if they ever finished it. I should probably message them about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not always high fives and hand grenades or something like that, I think they say. All right. Let's take a little break, and we'll be right back with the Pops Maker's Mark.
All knife makers need abrasives, plain and simple. Here at Knives Templars, we're proud to partner with Phoenix Abrasives. I used to get my belts from another company, but they spent more time on marketing than they did customer service, sometimes taking 2+ weeks to ship my order. That's not the case with Phoenix Abrasives. They're obsessed with committing all of their resources to customer satisfaction. Whether you're using a 2x72, 2x42, 1x30, or something else, they've got you covered. They even carry Rhino Wet sandpaper. So go to phoenixabrasives.com/shop and enter promo code Templars10 for 10% off your next order.
All right, we're back. So for our Pops Makers Mark, I already let the cat out of the bag a little bit. It's a good friend of mine, and I think most everybody else has met him or at least knows of him. David Moore, Big Hand Dave. David Moore 505 on Instagram.
Yep.
He's a competitive chopper, and he's made some knives. He helps. He's sponsored by Pops Knife Supply, and anybody else, or just Pops, or
Pops Knife Supply and Nuclear Systems.
Okay. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah. When Chip asked me to stand in for him, and then I asked him who the Pops Makers Mark was, because I was going to try to do a little background research to know him. And he said it's David Moore. I was like, I don't need to do any background on this guy. I know this guy. So I actually sent him a picture of us at Blade Show over there by the Pops booth.
Yeah. We've known each other for quite a few years.
Yeah, you've been on the Knife Perspective podcast, and he keeps threatening to help do a new intro for us. So he said to stay on him on that.
I'm actually in my music room now doing this recording, so I'm getting geared up. Of course, it's been 2 years. So
Chip has on here that you're a politician. I don't think I knew that.
Yes, I'm actually a city councilman for the city of Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
When did that happen?
That happened, I would say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2020. Yeah.
Nice.
I decided to, after 21 years of teaching college, as adjunct at night, I decided to quit that and be a politician. So now I really don't consider myself a politician. I've worked for local government for many years. I think working on 32 years, and I really enjoy helping the people. And I've lived here in Muscle Shoals my entire life, and so it just kind of made sense to help Muscle Shoals grow in the right way, and just promote Muscle Shoals and that type thing. And I know a lot of people here, so a lot of people call me with various city problems.
So Dave, I have to jump in here. Is that so? To let you know, when I'm not messing up knives in my shop, my day job is director of public services for the city of Mobile, and council members are politicians. I deal with them every day. So
I like to consider myself a statesman.
All right, I like that. Let's go with that.
I think I would classify you as a public servant. I think that's
all right.
One of the terms that might fit Dave the best.
It is. I'm sure you do an excellent job. I wish you were down here.
Yeah, I actually know quite a few people that worked at malls. So
okay, yeah, absolutely. I have a couple folks that I've stolen from Moz to work for me in the city.
Cool deal.
So you're mentioned competition knife chopper. How'd you want to let the guys know how you did with the cutting competition this year?
The cutting competition this year, I come in 5th place in the world, which is really good. So I'm pleased with that. I'm always striving to do better, and gives me something to work on and move forward with. I enjoy it. It's a blast being able to promote knives as tools, and use knives on the extreme end, because that's basically a 2-pound scalpel.
Yep.
And we get to just take it to extremes, and cut 2x6s with it, 2x4s, 2-inch free swinging rope. And believe it or not, what would you think the hardest cut? Well, for me, or just about anybody says, the hardest cut of everything we cut out of rope, straws, 2x4s, pool noodles, water bottles. What would you think would be the hardest?
Tennis balls.
The hardest is the straws.
Really?
The straws are the hardest cut because we cut the bendy straws, and we cut the top part that bends, and you have to cut an angle, and you can't cut into the bendy part. So you have a very small window, and you're taking a knife that's 28, 29, 30 ounces, and you're basically using wrist action to flip it through that bendy part of that straw as fast as you can in that small window.
Yeah. I had some insider information, so.
Yeah.
I was thinking of tennis balls, man. That looked tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, those rolling tennis balls are those are tough. That's when I first started, I think I probably went to the 3 or 4 competitions before I actually hit the tennis balls and golf balls. I come home and built me a table, and man, I would practice those and hit them every time at home, and I'd get in competition and miss.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Every so often I get some of those viral videos that you're in, and people will send them to me and say, "Hey, you should do this." I go, "I actually am good friends with the guy in that video." They said, "No way." I'm like, yep.
That video is surreal. I guess a good thing that came out of COVID when all sports ceased, Barstool Sports and others were looking for sports related content, and they picked that video up. Barstool Sports did, and it just went into the stratosphere. I think it's got over 1 billion views. That one video with
man.
Yeah, with me, Big Chris, and a cutter from the Philippines, I think. The 3 people in that video has over 1 billion views, and I every so often, if I'm sitting in a doctor's office or waiting in a waiting room, I'll try to get on it and comment to people. But there's so many comments, you can't just hit them all, So I try to comment and interact with people that's commenting on the video, and whether it's good or bad, good or bad comment gets views. So I don't care, if it's good or a bad comment or making fun or, whatever, I'll roll with it and, just right along with it.
So what knife do you use these days for the cutting competition?
So I'm starting to make my own knives. That's one of the things I've kind of got on my table out in the shop. I am currently still using a Donovan Phillips competition knife, Big D Knives. It's a CPM 4V. He's made the competition knives for years and years. I think probably 20 something years. And those knives, when I first made one, it sucked. And the one I made just sucked. You have failures, and it was a total failure. And I got to using Donovan's knives and using the knives, and there's a lot that goes into the balance and to the form and the design and the handle drop of that knife. And I'm kind of unique. Knives have to be 15 inches long overall length with a maximum of a 10-inch blade. Well, most all my knives have a 9.5-inch blade because I have to have an extra 1/2 inch for the handle. So that changes the entire way that knife is balanced, the drop of the handle, and everything. So it's a challenge. Donovan made a knife. Donovan has big hands too, and he made a knife, and it just fit. I'm also have one that I'm testing that is a Daniel O'Connor knife with Nuclear Systems. He made a knife for me, and we're testing it out. He makes swords and all kind of stuff, so we're testing it out also.
Man, I was going to ask you what steel to use on that. I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah, I use CPM 4V. I have let's see, I've used A2. That's a cheaper steel, and most of my prototypes are out of A2. Pop's Knife Supply got me some 8670, so I was able to do some prototypes out of 8670. I really like the 4V. Just me personally, a lot of people use the M4, and that's a great steel for that. Just I can personally get the 4V. I feel like a little bit sharper. Um, it just seems like it sharpens up. I think the M4s maybe a little harder, but we're literally splitting hairs. At that point in time, some people use PD1, Venatus 4E. I've got some of that to use. So, but my favorite is 4V.
Yeah.
And what thickness are you using? Are you using 1/4 inch or 3/8? Or
3/8.
I know you guys. Yeah.
3/8. The first knife that I kind of made, I did half because that was just a bad deal altogether. So it was a lot of grinding. It was and that chopper is going to make a bunch of paring knives.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nice. So for the people that don't know, how'd you get the Big Hand name?
Well, for the guy that named me, the big hands, I actually have a rare disease called acromegaly. And I also promote awareness of that disease. It's where you have a tumor on your pituitary gland that produces too much growth hormone. And my tumor started somewhere in my 30s, early 30s, late 20s. And so I didn't get tall. I just kind of got wide and bigger, and my hands grew and my feet grew. And my very first blade show, I was just overwhelmed. I was, seeing all these knives and overwhelmed. And I was sitting in a line for a CRKT, to meet Ken Onion. And we walked up there, and Ken signing stuff. And I got this hat, and I laid this hat down. He said, "Holy crap." And I'm like, I was the last one in line. And he said, "Put your hand down here." So actually, my wife took a picture of my hand and Ken Onion's hand side by side. And he kind of coined the term Big Hand Dave. I'd been called Big Hands before and stuff, but Ken kind of coined it. And I was like, "Oh yeah, man, I got a cool knife maker," So I just run with it. And
Yeah, there's a lot worse things you could get called, I guess.
Yeah, a lot worse. Yeah. But I still have that picture that me and Ken Onion and hand side by side. My hand actually just engulfs his, and I didn't get to see him this year, but last year, we kind of laughed and talked about it and stuff, and I've done some stuff with a Work Sharp that he's worked with, and so we kind of been in the same circles, and it's I think it's really cool. I'm not sure if he thinks it's kind of creepy or not, but I think it's really cool,
Yeah. Yeah, I've got one of the Ken Onion sharpeners with the knife maker attachment that I was hoping would help with when I go to family members' houses and stuff. They always say, "Can you bring your stuff to sharpen the knives?" I'm like, okay. So I was hoping that would help me out, but I didn't find that quite as, or just not used to it, using it as much as like my 2x72. I've got some stones and stuff now that's a little bit smaller and more compact, and it doesn't throw some of the grit around like that machine does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the same machine after you talked about it. And I take it when I go on like hunting trips or out to outfitters or whatever, and I'll take it. And of course, it's an outside thing. You definitely have to take it outside because it does throw the grit around. That it's a little 1x18-inch belt, and it just it's just not it heats up. It's just not forgiving. It will throw that grit, but it does a good job. I've got a little Craftsman soft side toolbox. I'll put it in and throw it in the truck and go, because I can sharpen a lot quicker with it than stone, and sharpen a lot more knives, because it's been my experience, if you get asked to sharpen one, there's another 32 waiting.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah,
no doubt.
I just tell them, just bring them to me instead of having me do like 5 every time. So because those other 5 are getting like really bad by the time those other 5 are starting to get dull again. But yeah, I gave mine to my dad. He uses it for lawnmower blades and some of his tools and stuff at home now. Chip said something about the Alabama Custom Knife Makers Guild. Are you a part of that?
Yes, I'm a member of that Alabama Custom Knife Makers Guild. We meet at Josh Howard's shop, and that has been a great thing. You know, and of course, you know, I'm kind of a hobby knife maker. You know, I've got a lot of irons in the fire, and I don't make as much knives as many people do. I've got actually probably 2 or 3 on the table right now that I'm kind of finishing up and stuff. And I've got other things I do, but you know, that's been a really good learning tool and a really good networking tool. You know, of course, I got to go at Pops and go and be a part of the Georgia's Knife Makers Guild, and I was really wanting something in Alabama, you know, closer, because Pops is, you know, 5 hours away, and you know, and this has really fit that bill of being close, being able to network with knife makers, you know, here close, and being able to actually talk to them and get some information, because, you know, I mean, I'm still learning. You know, I've ground for quite a while. I'm not as much a forger, but you know, I really enjoy learning from these guys, because I'm old enough now, and I didn't understand it when I was younger. But I'm old enough now that if I can learn something from somebody else and save me like hours of anguish and agony, then man, I will take, you know, 2 or 3 hours just to learn something from somebody, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been awesome.
That's called wisdom when you get older.
Well, it's called It Hurts. You know, it hurts.
Well, that was one of the things Steve Schwartzer was saying, that he's got so many people that come to learn from him that he sends them on all these side projects to discover and report back, and he gets way more information than he could have ever spent trying to do it all himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Let's take a break here and let's hear from Jason Fry with a Knives Templars tip.
Hey, this is Jason. Today I want to talk a little bit about batch building. Okay, so many of us start making a knife, and we make a knife, and then we make another knife, and then we make another knife. But at some point, you might get to the level where you want to make some knives right all at one time. So I want to talk about that a little bit. This is tip number 266 in my book, Knife Making Hacks. Goes like this. It costs nearly as much to heat the forge or kiln up for one blade as it does for a dozen. Plan your heat treat days to do a batch of 5 to 10 at a time, and you can save electricity, fuel, and time, particularly if you plan ahead and limit your number of steel types. The next tip, 267, is very similar. There are plenty of processes where batches of 5 to 10 are the way to go. Profile and rough grind a group of knives, not one. You'll get into a flow and you'll have less belt and tool changes. Mark all the holes at once and drill in a batch. Tool changes and switching tasks hurt productivity. So that's the way I like to work, guys. If I'm going to profile a blade, I'm doing 5 of them. I'll draw them all out on bar stock at the same time. I'll move over to the bandsaw and cut them all at the same time. I will move over to the grinder, profile them all, one right after another. Then I'll move to the bench and mark the holes, one set right after another. Then I'll move to the drill press and drill the holes, one right after another. By doing it this way, you save yourself tool changes. You gain the time that you lose switching between tasks, setting up the new machines. And another thing it does is it helps you to kind of get into flow, the mental state where you're doing things cleanly without effort, without thinking almost. Not saying you don't think, but you got to get into a groove and you can do better work by doing 3 to 5 at a time sometimes than you can by doing one at a time. From there, I'll do my heat treat. Again, it costs the same to do 5 as it does to do 1, pretty much, because the oven's got to get up to temperature either way. When you're doing stainless, you only have to buy 1 set of dry ice or 1 set of liquid nitrogen. If you do them all in batches, it saves you time and effort that way. When it comes to finish grinding, you do have to kind of come one at a time. But even then, on a finish grinding day, I might grind 3 blades and then hand sand them all over the course of a weekend. But I'm doing my rough and finish grinding on all 3 in one session at the grinder. Again, just a way to get into kind of the flow state and avoid tooling changes back and forth. These kind of things will help you make knives more efficiently. And in some ways, time is money, right? So the faster you make them without sacrificing quality, the more money you make at your hobby or job. And I think that's probably a good thing. So for me, batch building is the way to go. For more tips like this, check out my book, Knife Making Hacks. It's available on my website, frycustomknives.com/store.
Wasn't that a great tip, Mark?
That was awesome.
Awesome.
I'll tell you, you just can't go wrong. And I have not been through his whole book yet because, every day I find another tip. And again, I was like, wow, I'm glad I'm learning that from somebody else because I would have never thought of it.
There you go.
And so, it's good stuff.
When we had Jason Fry on our podcast, he was talking about some of the tips, how some of them were had little Easter eggs in there for numbers and different stuff. I think there was somebody lost a finger or something. I think he gave him number 4 or something. I can't remember exactly, but somebody will have to ask him at some point. Yeah, let's get Dave a vote for being a Templar.
Yeah.
Eric, what do you say?
I would say absolutely.
Brother Don?
Oh, yeah. Welcome.
Mark?
I would give him. Okay. Well, wait. Chip. I want to vote for Chip first because I think he's saying he's not sure. No, but absolutely. And then we got to make sure we end with Don.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah. How could I messed that one up? Sorry, Chip. So what's your vote there, Mark?
So I would say definitely, great addition to the team.
You got a big thumbs up from me, and Don, give him your final.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. So Chip has a little disclaimer here that doesn't come with any rights or privileges other than being a Templar. You don't get any purchasing power, no receipts. Can you submit for reimbursement? Chip did say that he would buy you food and drinks whenever he sees you.
That's
so
right.
definitely make sure you hit him up for that. But you got to be in person. You can't submit
That's
receipts and stuff and do that virtually. So.
Hey, he lives 45 minutes from me, so I'm coming to his house to eat.
There you go.
Excellent.
Ribeyes.
There you go.
Making ribeyes.
Nice. Yeah, make him some ribeyes there, Chip. Welcome to the team, Dave.
Yeah, welcome, Dave.
Thank y'all. Glad to be here.
All right. So we got another sponsor that we want to hear from. So we'll be right back.
Pop's Knife Supply was started 40 years ago and is owned by 4 professional knife makers. Andy Roy of Fiddleback Forge, Alan Searles of W.A. Searles Knives, Joey Berry of J.B. Knife Works, and Dirk Lutz of Dirk Lutz Knives make a great team of owners carrying on the traditions and business started by James Poplin. Over 4 decades in business is a testament to the best customer service with same-day shipping on weekdays. Pops only charges actual shipping, and any shipping differences are refunded on your orders. Everything you need to make knives, from grinding, steel, pin stock, heat treating, and more can be found at Pops. Visit them at popsknife.supplies. And now, back to the show.
And we're back.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Don, for counting us down there for the back end. So, on the topics here, we've got Chip wanted us to talk about file work.
Hey, what about, did we ever get our feedback? I know we had some feedback.
Oh, yeah. I kind of moved around here. Chip had some feedback, and I'll just read it straight. I have to say that I was listening to another podcast this week and heard a podcaster popping the bearings on my friend Kyle Daly for not just doing something to have a fill-in podcast while they were away. I must say I'm very verklempt. Good word there, Chimp.
Yeah, that's good.
Because Kyle stepped in and saved us this week due to my respiratory condition obtained by hugging my grand petri dish children. I salute you, sir, and know that Jeff was just jerking your chain. You're a likable and helpful knife ambassador to us all. And I know you are also friends to us all. So thanks, Chip. And
thanks, Kyle.
I guess I should have read that. It's probably more awkward for you to read that.
Yeah, I can handle it.
All right.
Yeah, Jeff and I have known each other for a really long time, even before I think he was making knives. I started following him when he was making the lure fish, and I actually have one right above my head here in the podcast studio. So
I just looked up the meaning of verklempt, and it means overly emotional and unable to speak.
Oh, no, that's pretty much it.
That's Chip.
Yeah.
He's emotional. He does get emotional.
I don't know if I've ever known Chip to not have any words to say. But, yeah. So, anybody else have anything for that one?
No, everything's good. Appreciate you though, Kyle, for stepping in. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Glad that I can be a help. Chip has in here he wants Mark to announce your last boat trip to Maritime Knife Supply.
Oh yeah, I forgot to. So Chip didn't tell you about that. So yeah, it wasn't a boat trip. This was a little bit different. You know, it's getting warmer down here in Mobile, Alabama, and I'm training. So this was a swim this time, and got up there. But then I was too tired, so I did not buy anything on this trip. But if when I got up to the Canada, Nova Scotia area, I would have definitely stopped by Maritime Knife Supply because every time I go online, they have everything I need.
There you go.
Yeah, it'd be a long swim from you because I think you said you were in Florida.
Well, I'm down in Mobile, so I have to go around Florida, so it's even longer.
Oh. Gotcha.
Yeah, he comes by and picks me up, and we go together.
Yeah,
you swim stroke for stroke.
Yeah, he'd go right by the house here.
Yeah.
Don just rides on his back.
That's right.
All right. So our one of the topics that Chip had on here was file work. What to look for in files, guides, getting started in decorative file work. I know Mark took the class. He's got the file with the golf ball on there. That I think has made my file work so much better. I can't believe how that little change there with how making it easier to hold. My hands don't get as tired and fatigued as much using a golf ball on the file instead of the longer wooden handles that I was using on my files. So I actually tried to give those file handles away the first 2 years that I taught the file class. I said, anybody can have these. I had no takers. And on the way out of the classroom, the second year, I just threw them in the trash can because I didn't know what else to do with them. Nobody wanted them. What I'm looking for in a file. So the main file that I use is a 7-inch extra slim taper triangular file. That's the file that I use the most for getting those thorn patterns, like triangular shape objects in the pattern. The extra slim taper just helps to have a really tight triangular corner there that actually cuts. A lot of the other triangular files that I've used are a lot bigger, and they just can't get quite as deep into that corner and make it look as good. And then I don't really use the round files too terribly much anymore. I do use them kind of at the end a little bit for some fine touch-up work, but I mainly use the carbide burrs. If I were to hand file all those rounds on doing the batch of 40 that I was doing, it would have taken me like a week.
Yeah.
Where I was able to knock that out all in a day. So, yeah.
Kyle, do you have a jig for that? Do you have it? Is it in a holder and you just hold the knife to that, or do you just hand do it?
I do it by hand.
Okay.
And then, so for my Fordham tool, I actually lock it into a vise. Mark saw the picture in the presentation. I think there's a picture in the book. But yeah, I put my handle of my Fordham tool in a vise. You could even clamp your Dremel tool in the vise. And then I use the knife and I push it into that stationary burr.
Okay.
Once I started doing that, spud or made my file work time decrease by at least 6 times.
Oh yeah.
I was always clamping the knife in the vise, and then I was using the tool and trying to hold it. And then anybody that's used a carbide burr knows the
yeah, no doubt.
And it's usually followed by a couple 4-letter words.
That's right.
No,
Kyle, I did that same process that you showed us, and it worked. It worked great. I bought those like rubber magnetic. What you put them on the vise, vise shoes or whatever you call them, and put the Fordham tool in there, and it worked like a champ. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things I was most honored when Steve Schwartzer was watching my presentation at the Hammer Inn last year, and he goes, "I never thought about doing it that way. That's a really good idea."
That's awesome.
And yeah, he was like, "I'm gonna be by it," or he actually asked me to help pull up those vice jaws, non-marring vice jaws, and he ordered them right there on Amazon. So.
Cool.
Yeah, got them delivered to the house. So, yeah, I don't use any guides and stuff. Sometimes I'll mark with little dots on the spine. I know I can't remember the guy's name right at the moment, but he did a little 3D printed 1/4-inch lines to help mark out your lines a little faster. I've always had really good luck just using the ruler and going and marking the first one, and then I'll stack up all the blades. And boy, having all the blades water jet cut, makes stacking them all together
easy,
a lot nicer. And then getting started in decorative file work, the biggest thing is just marking it out. The more accurate you can make those marks, and that just helps you just lay out everything so much easier and make everything more consistent. I think that was your first one, you said, Mark, right?
It was. I went back and I was like, that's what I couldn't wait to get back and try it out. I actually went down. I didn't have a Fordham tool. I went out and bought the whatever the Harbor Freight version is. But and then I was like, wow, can't imagine I lived without that. Just for everything I do in the shop. But yeah, that was my first one, and sent a picture of it. Gave me some advice of how to kind of take down the edges to make it flow a little bit, smoother. So I did that. And really kind of cleaned it up with those round files, like you said. And so now really, I just want to put the handles on so I can see how it looks. I bought some black dye for the epoxy. And so, I can't wait.
Yeah, for people dyeing the epoxy, make sure you start out with a little bit. Make sure you mix up your epoxy completely so you can see. Usually your epoxy is more like an amber color and a clear. Just make sure you don't add any dye at the beginning to make sure you get that all mixed up, and then put your dye in and mix it together. And if you need some more dye to make it a little darker, but usually like a little pea-size dot, it's amazing how potent that black dye is. So. Even if you're not doing file work, adding a little bit of dye to your epoxy really helps hide some of those fit up stuff too.
Yeah, so, I do that too.
Yeah.
Another thing too,
be careful with white
how
pins
much.
though. With
I'm sorry.
How
go
much
ahead.
dye?
Yeah, be careful how much you put in because it can kind of mess up the holding power of the epoxy.
Yeah, the ratio.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah. Anybody else have anything on file work or?
No.
You should also go get one of these books.
Oh yeah, one of your books.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
How to create file work and enhance your knives.
Where can I get one of those books at, Kyle?
You can get it on cagedailyKnives.com, and you can also get it at Jant's Knife Supply and USA Knife Maker.
It's an awesome book. It really is.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad, was glad to sign one for Mark and Eric at the show.
How can I get a signed book?
You can get it at cagedailyKnives.com. You can get a signed one.
What I love about it is it's got great pictures. It's got it's a really informative book. Like if you want to be able to do it, it's a great book. It really is.
Yeah, one of the things that I really wished when I had started was having some of the dimensions, and that was one of the things that I really wanted to make in there. So I wrote it how I wish I would have, all the things that I wish I would have known when I started doing file work. So I'm a little biased. I think it's pretty good. So
it is good, man. You did a good job.
I had to get another 150 of them printed. So
good. That's awesome.
I just got those back from the printer. Need to do a video announcing that. But yeah, Joey got my last one out of the original 150. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, darn. That's good.
Did you, in addition to the books, can folks still get the 3D printed progression card?
Yep. Yeah, those are available on the website. And then you can also on my website buy the STL file. If you have your own 3D printer and want to print one of the cards yourself. Okay. And on my website, it's also available as a PDF. So the PDF is $10 and the STL file is another $5. So I know quite a few people overseas that have bought that option, 3D printed their own card and printed off their own version, because to ship a book like that overseas, ship anything overseas, it's just crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Even to Canada, it's amazing to me how much something that small still costs to ship it.
Oh yeah,
man.
Yep.
So all right, we'll take a break, and anybody need to go to the bathroom?
I do.
Make your way there now.
I do. Thank you.
Hey guys, what was your source of inspiration when you first decided to make knives? Many go to the books and also some go to the web, but many also head to YouTube for videos. Well, we are fortunate enough to have Eric Rivers from the Rivers Experience as a co-host on the Knives Templars. But you know what? He's also a sponsor, and I tell you, 27,000 followers can't be wrong in following his skilled and educational regular videos that teach the fine arts of making beautiful knives. I know because I'm a subscriber to his channel, and I learned at my pace and without making those mistakes by walking in the dark regarding knife making. Be sure and check out his channel, The Rivers Experience, on YouTube, or his website at theriversexperience.com. And now back to our show.
All right. We're back, and the second topic Chip asked us to talk about was disc sanders. Variable speed, little, big uses. Anybody use a disc sander?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Not near as much as I should, but yeah, I have mine.
Yeah.
What kind do you have, Eric?
Man, I'd have to go out there and tell you the name of it. I've had it for probably 13 years, and it's 12-inch disc sander, and I had it from whenever I did cabinetry. And a lot of my tools converted from woodwork to knife work. So, but yeah, I love that thing. It works real well.
That's where I've got mine from when I did cabinetry.
Yeah. All right. What kind do you have, Don?
Man, I forgot, man. I said right there. It was right there. I was going to say something. I forgot it, man. It's blue. It's blue.
Is it a 9-inch?
It's 9-inch. Yeah, I got it from California.
True Grit.
True grit. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a 9-inch one also. It's a Nielsen disc system.
Oh yeah, you
I
talked
think
about that.
that's the best thing for kitchen knives. Although 3M just made my I have to look for some new sanding discs. They decided to stop making the 900 DZ disc um, in the 9-inch size. So I think they stop at 8 inches now. So
Really?
I was pretty bummed to hear
I
about
bet.
that because it's a ceramic disc with an open coat. So like unlike on your belts, they'll fill in a bunch of that grain with that coating to help promote grinding, but that open coat, it was really great for doing handle material and stuff like that. It wouldn't clog nearly as bad. So um, yeah, I really like the 9-inch one that I have. You can use the 9x11-inch paper and trim it
Yep.
if you need to.
That's
I
good.
try to use the PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive discs, on there as much as possible. I can rip one off and stick another one back on in just a couple of seconds, where it takes me 15 or 20 seconds to grab another sheet of paper, line it up, stick it on there, cut it off. I just feel like I get a little bit more out of my flow when I'm doing that. But the 3M discs stopped at 220 grit, so I was having to do that for the 400 and 600 grit or 800 grit sometimes that I would go up to. But yeah, gonna have to figure out some other solution for me. My boy Ed Soul, there in the Indianapolis area. I've been talking to him about the beauties of the disc grinder, and he ordered the Nielsen system and ordered me a couple extra plates that I paid him for. So I was really grateful to have. I've got 6 of those plates now, so I can have multiple grits on there and take it on and off and not have to pull off a disc that's not all the way used up.
Yeah, that's a time saver
And,
right there, man.
See, I've seen some people use ones that are beveled. Like,
yeah, I don't really understand the purpose. I think having it flat outweighs the bevel, and then like I do 9.5 inch knives, and I just do it on the top half or the bottom half. I don't go through the center, and I don't have any problem. But I also use some of my plates. I have like a 16th inch rubber 70 durometer piece of rubber on there. So for those higher grits, it gives it a little bit of cushion. You don't get some of those witness lines in there from not putting it on there perfectly flat. And then I also have the paper kind of go over the edge a little bit on those rubber ones, and I can kind of taper up and blend out that ricasso on my kitchen knives.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, anybody that doesn't have a 9-inch disc sander, they need to invest and get one. I mean, it's really a lifesaver.
I think it kind of depends a little bit on what kind of knives you're making. If you're doing some of the bushcraft stuff, I don't know I think it probably makes a little bit more sense to get something like a rotary platen. But if you're doing any kitchen knives, anything with a bevel that's like 2 inches tall, and you want to do a distal taper, that disc grinder is a lifesaver.
Yeah. Plus it also, when you have something like, I had a 12-inch disc sander, but the run out on it was so terrible, man. I'd used it in woodworking. It was so terrible. So, man, what a difference when you have something that's spot on, man. You know, when you're trying, especially, I use it mostly to do segmented scales or flattened blocks, stuff like that, and it works out great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a work rest for mine. I was planning on getting one of those ones from Beaumont Metalworks. They have one that bolts onto the front base of the motor, and then you can slide that piece on and off. I always thought that looked pretty cool. It was like, well, I'll get that when I have more money, and then never ended up getting it.
I use mine for square and stuff. It's got a big old work rest off the front of it. It's about 15 inches wide and about 8 inches deep. And you can pretty much do because it
Anything you
was
want.
for woodworking, so you can do whatever you got to do on it. You can bevel it, you can put whatever angle you want on it, and do all that stuff, or you can just take the whole face off of it and have the full 12-inch disc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're pretty much having to use those different PSA discs, right? For the 12-inch one.
Yep.
So okay.
Yeah.
Where do you get those discs at?
So I've got a local place that I can actually get all of that stuff from. It's the same place I get my like throwaway 2x72 belts. And
Oh man, throwaway.
yeah. So because I get my a run of 2x72, the ones that I knock all the edges off of the 90-degree edges, I get those belts for 79 cents a piece.
Ooh,
36
man.
grams. So through
That's
a
nice.
local place here, but they do pretty much anything woodwork, cabinetry, anything that you could possibly need. They sell it local here, and I just go through them and get whatever I want.
Nice, man. That's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Saves you a lot of money, man.
Yeah,
saves a lot of
a whole
money.
lot of money. Yeah, because I went and bought all my fancy belts while I was at Blade Show, and I'm sitting here looking at this $14 Norton Blaze 36 grit belt that that I used in that last video.
Exactly. Yeah, I've seen that.
God dang, man, $14 for a
That
belt.
surprised me.
But I did that, and then I got some from Phoenix Abrasives too while I was there.
Well, I seen that belt. I seen that belt on there. I went, darn, he stepped up to the plate, didn't he? When I watched your video.
What's funny
I went, oh,
is that knife,
big time.
the blade length on that knife is only 3 inches. So you go and you go in there and you're like, zip, zip, zip. And that belt took, I mean, I probably worked on those bevels for like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 112 degrees in the shop.
Yeah, you better believe it, man. It was even hotter than I thought it was. Our actual
hot,
real feel outside was 124.
No, I will never complain about the Florida weather again. I promise you.
Absolutely nuts. It was the highest it's been since 2003.
Man,
where's that at?
In Wichita Falls, Texas. North Texas by the Red River.
Goodness. No, we have humidity here in Alabama, but the heat isn't usually that bad. But you can walk outside at 4 a.m. and it be 80 degrees and be completely soaked. So with the humidity.
We have the humidity here too. So on that day, it was still 60% humidity. It's absolutely ridiculous. Mercy. It was so miserable.
Hard pass, man. Yeah, up here we've been dealing with the Canadian wildfires and all the smoke and stuff that's coming through all the way down in Chicago and lower. It's all blowing across Michigan and over into Ohio and stuff now. And it's crazy looking out and looking up the sky and seeing everything like real hazy and smoky and thinking that came like 1,500 miles away. Yeah. Still had like you... I've gotten some pretty good campfires roaring, but I've never had any smoke out that didn't kind of like you look up like 6-8 feet and it's kind of like not really smoky anymore. But yeah, there's been if you Google Chicago and the wildfire smoke, you can't even see some of the buildings and stuff.
Really?
It's so dense. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Apparently it's a lot worse there in Chicago next to the lake. Really coming down through there.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any topics they want to discuss? Anything that's going on? Or?
I'll throw a couple out there, right? So Don and I were chatting this week, and this is really a question for everybody. We were chatting because he has his what do you call those knife handles you're making?
They're
resin.
They're hybrid blanks. Hybrid.
Like a hybrid blank, that has a
epoxy and maple.
Yeah, epoxy and a stabilized burl, in a handle. If you have a block of that, Is that strong enough to put on a hidden tang knife, or does the combination of the resin where it attaches to the wood is that not hold up?
So you're going to be perfectly fine. A lot of the ones that do the hybrids, there's not a
Mm-hmm.
straight line. It's it's jagged lines. It's wood grains and pieces coming off of it. So whenever that resin gets on there, I mean it's got a really good mechanical bond because of how much depth goes into those little grooves and all that stuff. So no, it's perfectly fine for hidden tang knife.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Yeah,
That was a good
That's
question.
nice.
I would say
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would say as long as you make sure you get your resin
Mm-hmm.
mixes
Sure.
real
Yeah.
right. That's the only thing I could kind of see. Is it going to be as strong as something that's solid
Yeah.
wood or something like that? Probably not. But I I I've made a lot of stuff out of those hybrid blanks, and I just tell people you got to be a little more careful with it. Don't drop it on the floor and stuff like that. But it'll be perfectly fine for uh, working, and little small bumps and stuff shouldn't be affected at all.
No, and I've seen people, I've seen people make some ridiculous knives with some of those, but uh, all in all, I like the ones that are like that for some of my chef's knives and stuff like that that I'm gonna make, and I'll put the epoxy towards the actual cutting edge and the wood towards you know, the butt of the handle, and that way,
Mm-hmm.
whenever you're rinsing it off or you're cleaning your blade, you're not getting the wood wet,
Yeah.
and that's worked out
Exactly.
pretty well on some of them. But you can get some really cool looking hybrid
Yeah.
scales that way.
Yeah.
And if you
Mostly,
think, go ahead, go ahead.
Most of the hybrid blocks, I like to buy the blocks. And one thing that I do, this is kind of on topic but a little off. One thing that I do is that when I use the blocks, I'll have a little sliver left, about a 1/4 inch or so sliver left of the blocks. I always have. And I've started making chopsticks, tops of chopsticks out of the hybrid
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
blocks. Just go. I mean, I know woodworkers, we don't like to throw away anything.
Nope.
So, and knife makers are the same way.
Yeah.
You can find a use for anything you got. So, I'm just kind of just making that into the tops of
Yeah,
chopsticks.
keep
So,
all those cutoffs, man. I've made mosaic handles and cutting board style handles with all the pieces. I mean, the way that I look at it when it comes to those like hybrid epoxy blocks and everything, we use so many segmented scales on all of our knives nowadays that
Yeah.
not many of them are just solid wood. Now, if you go to Blade Show, you'll see a ton of solid wood handles and things like that. But most of these things that people want to order, they're seeing these knives on Etsy and all these places that have all these multiple pieces of handle material on them, and hardly anybody puts a pin in every single piece that's attached to those scales. So you just got to be mindful of any knife that you're going to use with any specialty scales. It's just going to be one of those things where you take
Sure.
care of the things that you like and you take care of the expensive things that you buy.
Yep. You're right.
Yeah, but I mean, no, I was, again, I brought that up just because, I called Don. I was like, hey, he said had a picture of one of his hybrid scale, that hybrid blocks that he had on there. I was like, yeah, I have to buy a couple of those off you, and so then we were talking about sizes and what I'd use them for. So just wanted to make sure that we're, using them in the right,
Exactly.
right purpose.
Yeah, I always go back and forth on if I like the resin towards the blade or the resin towards the back, but I'm mainly doing full tang stuff,
Yeah.
so I'm not quite as worried at all.
The
Yeah,
resin looks really
so
cool towards the back if you use something that's semi-transparent, and you just, especially if you're doing a hidden tang, because you get that full look of
Oh yeah.
that resin and everything on there. You were talking about Aaron earlier from Alien Knives. He did one where like the whole entire back section was really translucent blue,
Yep.
and you could
Yep.
just see straight through it. So that epoxy had like zero
That's cool.
bubbles in it. It looked like a jewel on the back side of that knife. It was really cool. He did the facets on it. It was a cool looking knife.
Yeah, I like to say one thing too. Just I want to go back to disc grinders or disc sanders.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say if you're going to buy one or make one, or buy like now Kyle, he made his own, and I would definitely say if you're going to do handle skills like I do, I would definitely have a BFD motor on it. Slow it down because it will burn. My one I had was a 12-inch, and it would burn the micarta. It just burn it up, and because you can't dial it in. I mean, 1800, 2000 RPM, it burns micarta big time,
and it's like a record player. The center
Yep.
part's spinning different than the outer part.
Yep, exactly. So I would definitely invest and get anything you're buying. It's going to either cut steel or cut wood. What I found is the VFD is probably the only way to go.
Yeah.
Except table saw and bands, all that stuff like that. But I'm just saying, it's
VFD on your table saw.
Hey, yeah.
The VFDs, like the cost for those have really come down, and the benefit is just crazy, especially if you're doing a disc sander.
Mhm.
There's not much there. Don said I made mine. Like all I did was put a couple holes in a plate, and then I mounted the disc to the motor,
Mhm.
and then wired up the VFD.
Yep.
So if you're mechanically inclined kind of at all, it's a pretty simple build, and it's not nearly as complicated as making like a 2x72 or anything like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, does it matter? Looking at a couple of those at Blade Show, I see some plates, were pretty thick, and then I saw some that were actually pretty thin. I mean, is a thin plate? I mean, gonna warp or flex? I'm assuming it could, or no? It's just that the aluminum's strong enough
No.
for that, or does that make a difference?
I think mine's about a half an inch deep, but that's partially because of the magnets that are counterbored from the backside. Yeah, I mean, I'm always inclined to say stuff that's thicker for stuff like that is probably a little better
Yep.
because less likely to flex. But I don't know if I don't know if you'd be able to put enough force in there by hand to get it to flex.
No, you're talking about the ones that's really thin. That's probably all steel, right? Or is it aluminum?
No, I was looking at the Ameribraid had their new, I don't know, I call it the transformer. They probably
Mhm.
have a good name for it, that it does like 5 different things.
Come by me now. That's the name of it. Come by me now.
Yeah, but one of them was a disc, was a disc grinder on there, and the plate was a little bit thinner than I expected, that I've kind of seen on some other plates. So just maybe just the technology has found out, hey, there's no need to have that super thick plate anymore.
No, because when you're doing anything like that, you're not really pushing in on it. It's not like if you're grinding on your 2x72.
Yeah.
I mean, anything I do on that disc grinder, it's not hard at all. Even Kyle don't even push up against it, or he may, I don't know. But being a big guy and everything, but
doing some of the bevel grinding, I do push pretty hard sometimes. Especially when I'm doing kind of that feathering up of to blend in up into the handle.
Yeah.
I'll push really hard just so I don't get any hesitation. I've just learned that if I do it a couple of times, like really hard and smooth, that works a lot better than kind of like trying to feather it in. I've gotten a lot better results like that.
Sure. But I don't think there's no problem.
Give it the gusto.
Yeah, I don't think there's no problem with a thinner plate. I mean,
Yeah, I just bought one of the Beck's Armory grinder adjustable height stands that I'm going to be putting my disc grinder on. I feel like I have one of the Harbor Freight stands that I modified that I have mine on right now, and I feel like it can move. I think I need it to move up another like 4 inches to make it a little more ergonomic, so I'm not quite hunched over quite as much.
Yeah.
And I think this one's going to be really good. I got some of the lockable wheels that I can't remember his first name. Beck's Armory recommended on their site, and I picked that up from him at Blade Show, and it's like 72 pounds or something like that, and he carried it from his table all the way over to mine, and I was like, or Richard, I was like, Richard, you got to be pretty tired by the time you did that. But it's all like 3/16 inch plate, and it has like some 1.5 inch squares and stuff, so you can put your attachments and stuff below. So if you were going to use it on your actual grinder, it has some storage and stuff built in there. And then it's sized so it fits one bag of concrete in the bottom to even further make that base weighted down.
Oh, cool.
Nice. That's awesome.
I've got a bunch of my old 1.5 inch steel tooling arms when I converted over to aluminum tooling arms that I'm just going to throw in the bottom there. So I think that's going to be enough weight down there.
Oh yeah, should.
Anybody else have any topics?
Good.
Oh, that's been my pretty much my thing. Now I am it's not really a different topic, but same topic, slightly different. I was talking to Brian House, and this kind of goes into our open discussion thing, and I'm going to be doing one of his Revolution grinders and one of those Apollo forges.
Okay.
On the channel. I was talking with him about everything, trying to figure out what all I'm going to end up needing and doing all that. So I'm going to do one of those builds, technically 2 builds, because it's going to be the 2x72, and setting all that up, welding everything, and getting it all situated, and then doing a Apollo Forge build, and it's gonna be pretty cool. I've been wanting a ribbon burner for a little while, and he's done a lot of R&D on that setup, and I really like it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull the trigger on it and build those. Excited about them.
Yeah, I think what Coy Baker said about that Apollo Forge, he said this will be the industry standard forge going forward.
I really feel like it will be.
Yeah, I don't even forge, and I've wanted to buy one a couple of times. So just having the block that you can unbolt it and throw some new blocks in there if you get flux all over the bottom or whatever. That seems like such the way to go. All for modular stuff like that. And Brian's done a lot of work getting it all heated up.
Yeah.
Lots of people keep asking him for, do you see that double ribbon burner one
Baker.
he made for Coy?
That thing is absolutely a monster.
Yeah.
Man.
Pretty cool
I
stuff.
mean, I just figured, instead of trying to, because I could easily build my own ribbon burner and do that stuff. But for me, the way that I look at it with my channel, if I build it myself, that's great, but I don't build forges for people. If I build my own 2x72, that's great, but I don't build 2x72s for people. And if I'm going to have people watch the channel, I want them to be able to go and get or make the things that I'm using to build these things, because if it's just something that I made, I'm not going to make the schematics, the blueprints, all the stuff for people to do these things. And I want people to be able to use the stuff that I use. And I really just, I really like Brian. And I think that I always tell people, if you're trying to get into knife making, the biggest expense that you will never regret is a 2x72. You will never regret buying your 2x72. It is the best thing that you can buy.
I think you can have one regret if you buy a 2x72.
If you buy like a $200 one.
No, if you buy one without a VFD.
Right.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, no, for real.
I think that's
good. Yeah, no doubt.
Because once you have one with a VFD, I don't think anybody'd ever buy one without one.
No.
I know I wouldn't.
I agree with that.
I love the horizontal that mine tilts. I love that tilting option. That was a game changer for me.
Oh yeah,
was the tilting option too.
You have the Beaumont TX, right?
I do.
Yeah. I know a lot of people really like that ratchet mechanism that that one has, and the TW90 has also.
I know with me when I went to buy one, man, and that is a topic that needs to be a whole discussion in itself. You know, just the difference in grinders and what you're looking for. Because me coming from a woodworking background, you know, I'm looking for something a little different, and you know, because I've done some sanding and done that, and you know, one of the major things for me was tracking, being able to
Yeah.
track. Because if you've worked with sanders, you know, woodworking type sanders or the belt sanders, you know, if it's not tracking, it's a bad day,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a
Yep.
really bad day. And, you know, I just, that was the most confusing thing when I was kind of changing my shop over and, you know, trying to pick out something, you know, is just, you know, and luckily I was able to go to different places and try, you know, different grinders and, you know, being at some of the hammer ends or being at some other people's places with blade sports and being able to try that. But man, that's a, that's a huge topic. And, you know, the wrong grinder that's just not for you is that's a hard thing. Or if it doesn't track or if there's issues with it, I mean, that can really hurt especially a beginner,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, I have to say that I think about you all the time, and that's not in a weird way. But every time I have my Ameribraid on, like, oh man, I'm going to trial this down to like 30%. I'm like, I don't know how Eric does it. How does he do the grinds he does without being able to dial that thing down?
Man.
I think it's a testament of your finesse.
Yeah.
But you know, it's impressive that every time I dial that thing down way to, like, you know, sometimes it's like 20%. I'm thinking, I don't know how Eric does
Yeah,
it.
because mine's got 3 speeds: fast, really fast,
Yeah.
and holy shit. So it's ridiculous, and you know. But I've been doing it for 4 years now, and you're just used to doing it. And before that, you know, I've done woodwork and I've done stonework, where you do countertops or like stone builds and stuff like that, where you're using an angle grinder with cutoff wheels and polishers to do everything, and it's running 3,000 RPMs in your hand, and you have to get used to taking material off gradually, taking your time. So when that translates to steel, being able to know what your body's going to do, know what the steels are going to do, know what all the different grits are going to do, you can be confident going to it and doing the practice. You know, I've made hundreds of knives and with that thing, and it's just pay attention to what you're doing. And but yeah, I can't wait until I have this VFD. So just so you know, because I'm doing the VFD that goes forwards, backwards, it does all of the everything. I can't wait.
Well, I need to thank Eric for a couple things. Back when I first started, before I made my first knife, and I was looking at grinders, he helped me to decide to be smart. Number one, get a VFD, and number two, get a small wheel attachment.
Oh yeah,
and number
for sure.
three, get one that flips horizontal, man.
Yes.
So thank you, Eric. Appreciate you, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think almost all the grinders now flip horizontal, which is really advantageous. I didn't really realize. I was like, whatever. And then, now that I have one, the bread serrations that I do on my bread knives, I use that small wheel with it on the side, and I'm just able to look right on it and touch it. Such a big difference. And then doing the bubbles file work that I showed in the class, being able to do that with the 1/2-inch wheel. That just makes it go so much faster.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Very nice.
So I do have a question. How many of y'all grind standing up and how many of y'all grind sitting down?
I can do both with mine, because my table that has all of my 2x72, my drill press, my porta band saw, my Fordham, and all those things are all on a table that raises up and down a foot. So I can raise it up a foot and stand up and do everything. I can lower it and sit down and grind, depending on if I'm doing a bunch of stuff, or let's say I'm grinding a a 2-foot blade or a 3-foot sword or something like that, and it's going to take me hours worth of grinding, I'll sit down and I'll lower the table to where I can sit down and work with it. But me personally, it's what's convenient for that time. But having that table is awesome.
Yeah, I sit down, or I built me a tall enough bench seat where I can get up there and sit and grind.
I stand. I still used to be in on my feet all day, working in the lab all day. I do have some 3/4 inch rubber horse stall mat with some more anti-fatigue, another
That's
like
good.
1/2 inch rubber anti-fatigue mat underneath it. That's one of the best things I've ever done for my shop was to go to Tractor Supply, and I bought a bunch of those 3/4 inch horse stall mats, and I just covered the whole side where all my grinders are and my workbenches
That's
and
good.
stuff are. Just that extra rubber makes such a big difference on your knees and hips and stuff by the end
And
of
that
the
makes
day.
sense for you because if you're doing, again, 40 blades and you're having to grind all of that, you're just sitting there over and over and over and over again. So I could imagine having something like that horse stall mat would be just anything that you can do to calm the fatigue down is just awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Horse stall mat makes really good handles too on competition knives.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Yeah, that's what
good.
we use for handles on our
Ah,
competition
bizarre.
knives is horse
Nice.
stall mat. Now, grinding it and shaping it is terrible.
I bet.
But when you're using it, the shock absorption is, I mean, it's amazing, the shock absorption. I've actually taken a lot of my machetes and stuff that I've used, out in the woods or camping or hunting, preparing to hunt, and I've kind of changed them over to horse stall mat handles.
What pins
just
are you
because of
using
that.
for that? What pins and epoxies are you using to make that happen?
I'm using G-Flex, epoxy, and just whatever pins I've got. If I've got some brass pins, I've also used some G10 pins, and they work just fine.
Yeah.
So, but I use the G-Flex. I really like it. It just seems like it flexes with it, and it doesn't pop off. In real heavy hard use. Not that I've ever had any pop off, but I'm talking really extreme use.
Yeah.
And that G-Flex is just been my go-to. I really like it.
Yeah, I've got some of the material that would be built for that, and I've been debating on using it. It's just sitting in my handle material bin that I have out there. I got a good square piece of it, and I've been debating on using that stuff. So I might have to try that.
There's actually two types of horse stall mat. There's one type that's got real fine grain, and there's another type that's got a real bit thicker grain to it, bigger grain. So if you're going to do a handle, get the finer grain horse stall mat.
Yeah, that's
Where
what
you get
this
that
is.
at?
It's real fine.
Tractor Supply, Rural King,
Okay.
any of the tractor farm home kind of stores have that.
Cool. Good deal.
So Eric, how many knives worth of handle material do you think you have on the wall?
Man, I probably have. I've got 40, 45 blocks right now of stabilized different types of Karelian maple, burls, buckeyes, all that stuff because Oleg, the guy over in Russia, he's one of my sponsors, and I get a lot of blocks, but I've got that and then probably about 35 sets of scales.
Darn.
That's
Get
a
her
lot
done.
less than I thought you were going to say.
It's
I have a handle material problem. I've got
a lot of knife makers have that.
I've got probably 600. I'm not even joking. 600 pounds of canvas micarta that's all like 2 inches plus thick. Yeah, I just can't help myself. I keep buying it all the time, and I probably have at least 200 blocks of wood that I just keep buying. So
You're a hoarder.
I have I tell my wife I have gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know brother Don, he probably has 400 or 500 knives worth of handle material with all the blocks and stuff he has from his turning days.
Yeah, I got quite a bit, man. I just put a couple of pieces of Buckeye I stabilized here a while back on here. So
this little piece would probably be good for a pin.
yeah, that's what I did, man. I still got a bunch of stuff for pins, man. I'm slowly selling them out, but a lot of stabilized burls, stuff like that for pins.
Yeah.
So.
How about you, Mark? Do you have a handle material problem?
So I'm a aspiring handle material problem person, right? And so I so I started off with when I made my first two knives, I knew a guy who made cabinetry, and so he had he's like, hey, you need some wood? I have walnut. I was like, really? And so he's like, well, yeah, how thick you want it? And so he cut me up like, I don't know, 100 scales of walnut, just the right size for scales. So, but it's not stabilized, but I've used it. It's pretty good. And so I'm saving it for when I start stabilizing. So I have a whole box of that. I have and a couple other knives in there, but then I have some Oleg's wood because that's great. And then I bought some stuff at Blade Show. Now it's like I almost feel like I can't stop. I'm like, oh, I gotta. So then I wanted to try some Juma, so I bought some pieces of Juma, on that Maker.
Yeah, Maker Material
what's
Supply.
that? Yeah, Maker Material Supply. So I bought some stuff from them, and then I've been looking for this.
Your shop's gonna hate you whenever you work with that Juma. Your shop is gonna want to kill you.
Well, I'm trying that on a knife.
The
like so my son loves
the finest dust you will ever have happen to your shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dust will be inside the windows if you have windows in your shop. It's like cat hair. So you'll be finding.
My son should appreciate it.
Yeah, you'll be finding that stuff everywhere. The first time I cut into it, it was like poof. It just went everywhere.
Yeah. I tell you, G10 is pretty bad too, man.
It's 5 times worse than G10.
Is it, man?
Have you ever used Curanite?
I just got some from this company he was talking about, and I'm gonna try it. Not Curanite, yeah, I got some of that too. So.
I'm about to say you should. You're a pin turner, man.
Yep, Curanite, and I also got some Rich Light.
Yeah,
it's called Paper Micarta.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, it's like anything else, man. It's like crack to wood material for life beggars, like crack to crackhead.
Yeah. So now that we're on the subject, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Don. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. I'm good.
So what's the? So I don't have any. What's the big deal about like the antique micartas and all those? Everybody keeps saying they want to get a hold of those, and I mean, is it better? Is it just the color? Is it is all the chemicals in there that's going to kill you when you sand it? Like what's the appeal? What's good about it?
All the above.
Okay.
All the
above. Yeah. So the especially the Westinghouse stuff is the most desirable, and I think that's just because Westinghouse is a big name.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of other International Paper and a bunch of other places made different micartas and stuff like that, but the Westinghouse has got the biggest name behind it. They're the only actual true micarta that you can buy. They actually copyrighted that name.
Okay.
And when they stopped making it, they kind of just didn't enforce it, and people can call them micarta. So everything else is phenolic or
phenolic.
Garolite, I think, is the other term that people use for it. But Westinghouse, true Westinghouse, is the only thing you're supposed to call micarta. But just the patina in it, usually from all the years, it turns like a really dark, beautiful brown. Some of the canvas weaves and stuff they've used in it gives it a really wood-like texture. That's why I like the thicker cut stuff, because I put it on the end grain, so I cut it so all the layers are perpendicular to the blade. That stuff looks cool.
Did you ever buy any of those big old blocks of them that were like 2 feet long, 2 inches tall and like a foot wide. Those huge chunks of
I
them.
don't have one that's a foot wide. I've got one that's 4 feet long, 2.5 inches thick, and like 5 inches wide.
So crazy.
Wow.
And then I also have one that's 6 inches by 6 inches by like 18 inches.
Jeez.
That just sits on my workbench. I polished all 4 sides that are cut, and it just sits on my workbench, and I smile at it every time I walk by it. It's patinaed. It's like this super dark, rich brown color. It's just super
I
beautiful.
bought a beautiful sheet of it while we were at Blade Show in Atlanta. Real nice vintage sheet. I can't wait to put it on a few classic builds that I'm going to be doing. So
one of the things I like about the vintage type stuff is the stuff that was hit by UV light, and you'll see that a lot in like Fender guitars, the older Fender guitars that they use the epoxy that they used and stuff on them, and the finish that they used. That it really didn't take the UV light well, and it yellowed it and changed it. Some really cool colors. The micarta kind of does that too with the UV light, the stuff that hits it, and I think that makes it unique, very unique.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the pieces that I have, the canvas layers, they used a little bit different layer, and there's like 1/8 of an inch that just turned like super dark brown inside this lighter brown. I thought that was super cool. And then sometimes like on the edge where that's exposed to the UV light, like Dave was talking about, it'll actually like darken in like almost like a
bark.
They call it like an ombre fade or whatever.
Yes.
So.
Oh yeah.
What were you
I was
saying?
going to say, again, we're not changing subject, same subject, whatever. He was talking about the UV light, still handle material. I think the people have had this big kick with the glow in the dark and the stuff that they do with the glow in the dark liners, pins, or the actual handle material. We saw some of the like carbon fiber materials and the different ones at Blade Show where they would light them up with the pin or with like one of their lights and it'd glow. And some of those materials, like a slab of like just a set of scales, were like $85, $90.
Man.
For quarter inch thick, little bitty old pieces. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I get it that it glows in the dark, but
it's got to do with lightsabers. Ever since Star Wars comes out, man, anything that glows and what I mean, it's got to do with lightsabers. Gotta have it.
Yeah. Mark had mentioned the Darth Maul lightsaber thing. Like I think I was around 13 or 14 when I saw the Phantom Menace, that episode 1 in the theater for the first time, and Darth Maul, like, and that was before like the internet was really like super big for like spoilers and stuff. So when Darth Maul came out and he shot his lightsaber out the one side and then he shot out the other side, everybody was like,
So no, I agree. And that is just, I see some of these things where people are, because people are trying to invent stuff. They're trying to be the first in the knife community to make a thing. And so it's always interesting to go in to the shows and see all these innovative things that people are coming up with that I'll probably never use, but I know that a lot of knife makers are going to see it and go, that's really, really, really cool. Don't know when I'm going to use it, but I got to get it now because there's going to be a time that I'm going to need to make something with that. And
So I would be remiss if I didn't mention the glow in the dark of glow in the dark geeks that I know, Mr. Dan Eastland. He actually has a patent for the glow in the dark chunks in resin on handle material.
Really?
That he gotten. Yeah. So he has this firefly scale that he does with different colors and this glow in the dark chunks and stuff that is in there. It looks super cool, but yeah, he's a total glow in the dark nerd.
I can see that. They're seeing some of the stuff that he does. you can tell that he's kind of a glow in the dark nerd.
Oh, but darn, yeah.
What he said, one of the things that he said was pretty cool is the grind room when he shuts the lights off after he's been working a bunch of it. All the dust all over the place is glowing.
Yeah. What happens when they take a check secretary for him?
I don't. He is very good at wearing a respirator.
Oh, that's good.
In the next episode of the Knife Perspective, he's actually doing a series called the Respirator Roundup, and he's fed up with his 7000 series 3M respirator, and he's got 3 on the bench right now that he's trying out, and he's got a couple more that he's going to try out, and he's going to give his opinions and stuff. And it's just so gross. He said like when it's super hot, he'll like have to go out of the grind room and he'll take his respirator off and dump the sweat out of it. Like,
so
my God.
So if you've been in the military and had to wear chem warfare gear, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine. I see a lot of the people doing the full blown helmet, setups and all that, and in the YouTube world.
the forced air stuff.
Yeah, I have forced air.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I bet that it's nice.
That's a lot cooler, right?
Lot cooler. I mean, it's I can't remember the name because I had it when I was doing cabinet work, woodwork. That may be it. I was doing woodwork and stuff too, and it just fits. It fits around your beard, so you can have a beard because sealing, is pretty important on those. And it fits around your beard, and it fits. And it's got a battery in it, and it's got a HEPA filter kind of in the back, and it just forces air up and around your face. And I mean, it's great. As far as keeping, because when my face is covered, having that air blowing is. Nice. That it lets me work in the shop a lot longer. It lets me kind of get lost in my work and lost in my creativity. Because if I've got to stop and wring out sweat or something like that, I'm gonna squirrel. I'm going to find something else to go do for a little bit. I'm just going to squirrel. That's just me.
Yeah. It's not as hot up here, but I got 2 window air conditioners in the shop this year, and I walked into the shop this morning. It was 71 degrees.
There you go.
Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about. I walked into my shop this morning. It was 120.
No.
Yeah, hard pass.
This morning,
man.
I'm talking about at like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It wasn't 120. It was like 105, but still.
If you work in a garage and stuff, a lot of people think you should open the garage door and stuff right away when in the morning. You should try to keep it as closed up until you can't stand it anymore and then open it.
Yeah, get that second wind.
That helps keep the cool air in a lot longer.
So
I don't.
So
now, talking about in working garages, what type of filtration? Do y'all have any passive or active type of filtration in your workshops, workspaces?
Yeah, I use my lungs.
Yeah.
That filters it out for everybody else in the family.
Yeah,
Mark's the real man.
Yeah, I have a win, but the air thing you're talking about you wear is called trend. A trend. But no, I have a win up on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And air conditioner. I have a big window unit in my shop. I turned woods for years, man, to sweat, and back then I was a lot younger and it didn't bother me. The last 5 years is like, man, you got the money, go buy an air conditioner, man.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Whenever I get my doors finished and get them insulated, I've got a mini split that I'm putting with the shop. So it'll do my main shop that's going to be the clean area. And then the big shop, it'll all be heated and cooled.
Good. That's the way to go, man.
It'll be a lot nicer next year, but this year, I'm just going to die.
Sweating to the oldies, baby.
I use both. So I've got an active dust collector that I use for my handle materials and stuff. Goes into a big Dust Deputy Cyclone and then into a paper filter. I got the Rockler upgraded one for my Shop Fox dust collector that got rid of that nasty felt bag. That anytime you touch it, you'd see a ton of dust like come out of it. And then I've got a jet passive dust collector that has a remote that you can set it for 2, 4, or 8 hours. So
Cool.
when I've done a big handle material grinding thing, if I haven't had the garage door open with I've got a squirrel cage fan that blows like at my legs to try to keep a bunch of that dust down, all the dust that gets past the dust collector suction tube. I have that active one or the passive one run for 2, 4, or 8 hours after, depending on how much I've been grinding.
Yeah, you got to have a dust collection. I know I have one too, but still, I mean, you got to have that, man, because that G10 and Micarta, my gosh, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I really think if you can try to get a Cyclone for as much of the really fine stuff as we do, I really think you need a Cyclone, because whatever dust collector you buy, that bag or the paper filter is just going to fill up.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have a dust topper that goes on a 5-gallon bucket, and I just dumped that bucket. I haven't dumped it in probably about 3 weeks, and I went and dumped a bucket, and my bag was still empty. I have a bag and a filter inside the vacuum, and the bag is still empty. So that's a must, man. You got to have that.
Yeah,
that Cyclone works good too. Oneida, I think it's Oneida dust.
Yeah,
Oneida. Yeah, that's a good one.
They're the ones who make the dust deputy stuff.
Oneida is the people that make the French
I couldn't
fries.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually seen some homemade ones with traffic cones. You know, them making the homemade dust deputies with traffic cones. You know, and PVC pipes. So
I put that big like stainless steel tray in my my sandblaster, and I couldn't believe how much dust my my vacuum was able to suck up and out of that. So I now have a Cyclone for my sandblaster also to help reclaim, because that glass bead ain't cheap.
No, I dump it back in there. I have a separate bucket with my thing, and
I got one just for my dust collector.
And I dump it right back in, man. Keep going, man. Yeah, that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, it sucked out probably 2/3 of what I had in there after doing like 12 blades. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's about $75 for 50 pounds of it. So that's just,
that was about it sucked out about 6 pounds of media in that 25 minutes or so.
How you liking that? It works good on it.
Yeah, it's working pretty well. Getting a good consistent finish is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. So once I sandblast it and then I throw it in the tumbler, sometimes I'll still see those grind lines that you can't see when you're sandblasting. So that's been a little bit of a learning curve. A bunch of these knives that I'm going to be making for Knife Center, quite a few of them are going to be blasted and polished. So pretty excited.
Well, speaking of that, what do y'all have coming up in your shops with the next couple of weeks?
You want to go first, Don?
Yeah, I can go. Well, I'm right now, man. I'm in the middle of doing some blanks and blocks. I got a guy who wants me to make him a few blocks, epoxy, hybrid blocks, and then I'll get back into doing some knife making, and but other than that, that's about it, man. I've been stuck. I said I've been stabilizing for the last couple of weeks. I did 40-something pounds of burl. And then now it's epoxy time.
You working on some kitchen knives or bushcraft?
I'm working. I have 2 kitchen knives. They're 6-inch petty knives that I started on, but I haven't finished on them yet. But I'm gonna be back on that, doing that. So I got 2 of them. I've been putting them off because I had other people want to buy some other things. So I decided, you know what, when I get running the epoxy and get that done, then I'm gonna go back in and finish up the kitchen knives. So chef now. So that's about it for me, man.
What do you got going on, Dave?
I I've got a couple of knives on the table that I'm finishing out. I'm working on some actual cutting boards for some projects and some giveaways coming up. So some of kind of the ones that I did before with the World Championship hamburger, some of those design cutting boards, the real thick chef cutting boards, I've got some of those I'm working on. So I don't have air conditioning in my shop, so I tend to slow down as it comes to August.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of my prized possessions is my big hand Dave cutting board. I've got it on my table with some knives on it, so people can do their rock chopping or test out a blade there on the table. Beautiful board.
Is that ingrain, Dave?
No, it is actually just side grain. I do some in grain. He was wanting it more for decoration, and it just depends. You know, most of the chefs want in grain so that it doesn't dull their knife blades up, and I do that also. Kind of like, I guess, more booze blocks kind of looking cutting boards like that. I do that. But when you're really wanting like a decoration, and back a few years ago, I did one for a guy that was competing in the World Hamburger Championship, food championships in Dallas, and his burger actually won. And I designed the little block it was on, and I didn't do ingrain because I didn't want it to overwhelm the burger. I just wanted something simple, sleek, and I did a walnut with 3 maple stripes off center.
Yep.
Something just enough to drag the eye to that something just wasn't right. Because if you see something that's just not right, your eye keeps going to it, especially as woodworkers and knife makers and your craftsmen, your eyes. And so that's what I kind of did. I did 3 stripes off center, an odd number of stripes off center, and it really got top marks. And so that's kind of what's took me as far as when I design one for looks or I design one that's just going to be in a kitchen. If it's just going to be in a kitchen and just use it, it'll be all in grain.
Yeah.
But if it's looks and going to be, presentation knives on it and stuff like Kyle's doing, it'll be edge grain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one he made for me had some walnut and ash and maple. I think were maybe a little bit of cherry.
Yeah, it did.
Nice.
So, what are you working on, Mark?
Well, I got to finish sanding this blade here with the firework on it, and the goal for this weekend is to hopefully tomorrow I'll epoxy get the handles all glued up, and then I can work on shaping the handle on Sunday. But then really, my next goal is to I have the some like maybe it's like 3-inch blade EDCs. Those 2 of them I made came out pretty good, and so I want to make like 5 of the same knife. And just kind of practice dialing that in, just kind of do all the bevels, all the, just kind of go from one to the other, just to really, right now I've done them all sequentially. And I want to, just kind of practice doing that one task, not like 1,000 times, but maybe like 5 times. So I think I'm just going to mark out 5 blanks and cut those out sometime next week. And then I can just find a time where I could start going through those.
Yeah. I think you'll be surprised how much better your bevels get doing that repetition over doing the same thing a couple of times.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I've got, like I mentioned before, a bunch of those MagnaCut pocket bushcrafters and bushcrafters that all may go into Knife Center. So I'll be hating life grinding MagnaCut. I didn't for my bushcrafters, I don't go quite as hard as I do on my kitchen knives. These are like 62.5, kind of at the top end of that toughness curve that Laren kind of found in his documentation there. So a little bit more tough, but still a pretty hard edge there. So, all right. Let's see here. Chip wanted me to say questions and comments, product reviews, show notes, and guest ideas. Subscribe to the email at knivestemplars@yahoo.com. or DM us on Facebook at Knives Templars Podcast Group. Visit us at knivestemplars.com to stay up to date on all the new news and stuff. Episodes are sponsored by The Rivers Experience, Last Blade Sanding, knifewood.com, Ameribraid, Majestic Forge, Byford's Guns, Pop's Knife Supplies, Maritime Knife Supply, and Phoenix Abrasives. And at Phoenix Abrasives, use Templars 10 for 10% off your order. And thank you guys, and get into the after show.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if I should say it. Say goodnight, Kyle.
Good night, Kyle. I think that's actually going to be our sticker for next year. So
okay,
this year was say goodnight, Dave.
Yeah. Then next year you're going to get Kyle.
Yeah.
I figured you never got the billing on that, so we had to give you some love.
yeah. That's part of what we use some of our sponsorship money for, is making those stickers and stuff. And we made up some posters and stuff with the
I love the post
beer label.
It's an awesome beer label. I think that's like you hit the mark on that one. That was great.
Yeah, I've got some pretty interesting ideas for next year's. A little same sci-fi theme beer label. Got a couple of ideas that I think we're gonna have a pretty impressive sticker for next year.
Sweet,
it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, nice.
I'll tell you, the person that thought it through, again, Brian, with his freaking shirts. Brian House, he literally brought like 200 shirts. And just handing them out to every maker, YouTuber, everything. So he handed them out on Thursday and Friday, and everybody was wearing them Saturday and Sunday. So he got like just walking billboards the whole Blade show, and then of course we're all wearing them in our YouTube videos and all that stuff. So that was a good little bit of free PR.
Chunk of change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
definitely not free because
made.
I think it cost him like $2,000.
Yeah,
but
that's a lot of shirts. But it's hard to buy that much advertising, getting your name out there.
I mean, there's people that I think our budget at my job is like $7,500 a month in PR stuff. So $2,000 for people wearing your stuff for the next year is not bad. And I might do something kind of like that with next year whenever we actually have the podcast at Blade Show Atlanta. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty excited to see that he were those sticker packs he gave out with the rulers. He had a different little quote on there. So now I'm like, now I got to even be more careful keeping track of where these go, so I make sure I have the whole set when he keeps doing those.
Oh yeah, I agree. But
Brian,
really good.
Brian's a good dude.
Yeah, he's a really good guy, man. Super guy.
And Brent, I was right next to him. His friend Dave and John, they were the table right behind Phoenix Abrasives, and John and Dave, man, those two guys that Brent had with them, those guys helped him sell a ton of knives. Those guys were big helps for him.
That's good, man.
So
yeah.
John, he's got some ADD, and he was pounding a couple monsters, and he was like, pew, 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 pew. he goes, people are going to pay me to stop talking to him.
It was a good show for a lot of people, and I'm happy that a lot of people were able to sell their knives and do really good. It's the interesting thing about Blade Show is, all the people that are there at the doorbusters, that are there in the lines waiting to get in, they're going to Microtech, they're going to these the manufactured knives because they're wanting a specific knife, they're wanting these specific things. and you got these guys that are just wonderful makers who are making these handcrafted, beautiful knives, and people whenever. So I was in the line with a lot of the doorbusters because I used Dennis. I got a cat pass from him, so I was part of the early entry, and I'm sitting there, I'm talking to all these people that are knife collectors, and they don't know any of the small makers there, which in our world, those makers are huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we've known them for a long time as fellow makers, and these guys have no clue who any of these guys are. They don't even understand what a journey smith person is, what a master smith, why it's important. They don't understand that these guys that are there that are master smiths actually designed the initial things that those other manufacturers are replicating, or that the Damascus that's in some of those blades were patterns that were designed by the guy that's sitting down there at a booth, that if he didn't come up with that stuff, that it just wouldn't exist. And they have no clue who he is, and it's just like mind boggling. I wish that that side of the show got that love like the other side of the show. You know, people.
Yeah.
I think
you got to love it because those people are the ones that are drumming up the excitement and stuff for everybody else. Those guys were lining up on Monday.
Yeah.
They sat outside in the Atlanta heat Monday night, all day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get in at 10 o'clock on Friday. Or noon on Friday.
Yeah,
or whatever
it's
it was.
Absolutely crazy, but they wanted, super specific. And I went to the show wanting a specific thing, and of course, as a manufacturer knife, but it's one of those deals where you don't realize that the people that are there are, as important as they are within the knife making community, and that they actually have their work there. Like you could buy the thing that the other people are replicating.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of those guys don't have any idea who Michael Walker is, and if you haven't heard of Michael Walker and haven't looked at some of his stuff, you need to. He was the guy that invented the liner lock, and that's some of the stuff like people like that. Like I was talking to a couple of people at the Knife Makers Guild, and you don't realize how influential some of those people are, and they're just normal people like all of us. They'll talk to you. Like I got pretty intimidated when I was getting my guild stuff signed. The guy or Andy Roy goes, "You need to go over and have Bill Rupel come over and look at these." And I'm like,
"Yeah, all right."
What?
Okay.
And I go, Bill, would you? I'd love for you to come check my knives out to sign my application for the Knife Makers Guild. And Luke Swenson was standing there next to him, and he goes, "Do you need another person too?" And I was like, "Actually, I do, but I'm kind of intimidated." And it's like, "Nah, don't. You'll be fine." So it was pretty cool having those two guys sign off on my Knife Makers Guild application.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I got my voting membership this year, so I'm a full member of the National Knife Makers Guild.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
Nice.
that was pretty one of the highlights for me. I was nervous trying to get 4 knives as beautiful as I could get them, and Jason Fry was actually one of the 2 guys that was the judge for the final one. I walked in and he said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Pretty nervous." And he goes, "Nah, don't be." He goes, for the voting one, we don't see many bad knives. So he goes, all those usually get weeded out before they even get to the application. So I was still worried. You want to always try to make the best knife you can make.
Absolutely.
Right? So anybody else have anything else? I think Chip's wanting us to wrap it up so he's not having to edit for 100 hours.
You sure he doesn't want 4 hours worth of stuff to edit? No, it makes sense. We've been going for about just over.
Yeah. for the highest bidder next year at Blade Show, I think I'm going to like bring an accordion and stand at the door when they open it up and play the final countdown and walk to whoever's table wants me to.
Yeah. Well, they got the bagpipe person.
Yeah, they
that
didn't have
goes
him there
to-
this year, the bagpipe person.
Really?
Yeah.
Usually they go to Dark Timber. I
Yeah,
think
the
it is, or
bagpipe
something like
person,
that.
but he wasn't there this year. So I wished I'd have brought my accordion and I would have just walked them around different tables.
One of the first year I was there in 2018, Dark Timber was really pretty close to us, and I got to witness the literal madness
Oh,
that
yeah.
was there at that table. They sold, I think they said they sold 180 something knives in 15 minutes.
The crazy thing about that brand is their resale. Like if you go to Lords of Steel on Facebook or all these different little knife selling things, the resale on those knives, insane. Is it?
Did you go to Blade Show when Bussy was in that back corner?
No.
When did you start going to
Only
Blade
a couple
Show? Eric?
years now for the current stuff. Before
Yeah.
that, it was earlier.
Did you ever hear of Bussy knives? They used to be a real big thing, but they would have business cards and they would like toss them out into the crowd, and that gave you the opportunity to come up to the bench and buy one. And people were like literally like punching each other. And there was video of a like Asian woman that totally jacked this like guy and stole the business card
So
from him.
this
So-
knife right here is the knife that I got from Blade Show, and they had the booth for them, but they weren't selling them. They would tell you, okay, so and so has 2 of them, so and so has 3 of them, so and so has 1 of them, and you could only get that many of them because they've been out of stock for years. You cannot buy them, and it is a Kershaw in Magna Cut. So,
Okay.
which you really can't get any Kershaw in Magna Cut. You can't, if you tried to find one, you wouldn't find one. And so that's kind of how it is. Like you have to try and find it. And we were just walking through the show and there was just one off to the side right here. And I was like, I'll buy that. I didn't know how much it cost, but I knew that I was going to buy it, whatever it was. And I was able to get it. And but yeah, it's ridiculous how some of those things work where you go in there and those people are seriously like handing out business cards, and if you get lucky enough, you're good.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. And with that, want to say good night.
We can do that.
Oh yeah.
Good night,
Yeah.
guys.
All right.
Have a great week.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, everybody have a great
You
night.
guys.
Good night, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Appreciate
great having
y'all.
you.
Appreciate it.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Brought to you by Porkhouse Productions. Oinky oinky oinky.
Majestic Forge is owned and operated by Brian and Kayla Horn in Rushville, Ohio. With many years of experience manufacturing 2 to 5 burner gas forges, Majestic Forge is your #1 source for blacksmith forges, farrier forges, and specialty forges. They are dedicated to creating top-of-the-line forges at a price you can afford. Majestic Forge has supplied forges to blacksmith schools, high schools, colleges, production shops, and TV shows such as Mythbusters. And Majestic Forge is the forge of choice for televisions forged in fire. Knife makers are in luck as they offer forges that come with 2 or 3 deluxe burners. Here at Knives Templars, we are sure that you can find a USA-made Majestic Forge to suit your needs. Check out your next forge at majesticforge.com.
Looking for a brand new or used firearm in or around Hartselle, Alabama? Head on down to Byford's Gun Shop and explore their latest offers and deals. On top of a great selection of high quality and affordable firearms to fit your needs, their staff will have you driving away with a smile. Byford's is a third-generation business that has been serving customers since 1971. Started by Joe and his father Ernest, the business continues to prosper well into the 21st century with Jeff Byford's knowledge and leadership. With brands like Benelli, Glock, Sig Sauer, and many others, you won't go wrong. Also check out their large selection of AR-15s and hunting rifles in many calibers. Byford's carries ammunition, special installation service, knives, accessories, transfers, and customer service that's second to none. Stop in and see them at 510 Main Street West in Hartselle, Alabama, or like them on Facebook at Byford's Gun Shop. Their team can be reached at 256-778-3111. That's Byford's Gun Shop, where they go the extra mile to satisfy your shopping experience. Head on over today. They'll be waiting for you with friendly faces.